All right, everyone. So, a couple weeks ago, I mentioned that I was going to be making these videos answering questions from the presidential debate, things that our actual politicians don't do. So, here's going to be the first one. I thought probably the best place to start would just be, the first debate between Joe Biden and Donald Trump. So, the first question of that debate, and I'm going to kind of read it verbatim, how the moderators read it to Joe Biden, and so this is kind of how they teed up the question. President Biden, inflation has slowed, but prices remain high. Since you took office, the price of essentials has increased. For example, a basket of groceries that cost $100 then now cost an extra $12. And typical home prices have jumped more than 30%. What do you say to voters who feel they are worse off under your presidency than they were under President Trump? So, obviously, I'm not Joe Biden, so I can't really answer the question like in the way that Joe Biden would, or I think he should have. But if someone just said, "Hey, in 2024, do you think we're worse off than we were in 2020, as far as like, from a financial standpoint, especially in regards to inflation?" This is how I would have answered the question. So, as I said before, I'm going to answer these questions in 3 minutes or less because that is the allotted amount of time that you're given. So, here is what my answer would have been to that question. As Americans, holistically, from a strictly financial perspective, we are worse off than we were 4 years ago. However, the same could be said after Mr. Trump's term, Mr. Obama's term, Mr. Bush's term, Mr. Clinton's term, and every presidential term since I've been alive. I'm a child of the 90s, so I like to reference the year 1990 as a starting point. In 1990, the median household income in the United States was $63,830. Every year since then, the rate of inflation has outpaced increases in household income. Today, you would need to have a household income of $151,000 to have the same buying power as a household earning $63,830 in 1990. In 2024, the median household income in the United States was $81,000. That's a massive gap between what most households are making versus what they would need to make to live the same lifestyle as someone in 1990. So again, I say as Americans, we are worse off today than we were 4 years ago. And 4 years from now, we'll be worse off than we are today if we don't take a stand and combat inflation. Like that's something that we must get under control. We're beyond the point of creating a balanced budget. We need a budget that creates a surplus so we can start to make a dent in our national debt. So you can go ahead and stop the timer there. That is how I would have answered that question. Um, no clue what type of rebuttal I would have gotten from another candidate to that or what the moderators would have asked. But that specific question, that's how I would have handled it. Um, Now, I know in a debate, you don't get the luxury of sharing a graph, but I'm just going to pop up a graph real quick, real here to kind of show what I'm talking about. So this graph here that I'm sharing, this is, the trends between our inflation rate and then the changing price and the median household income. So again, I used 1990 as my starting point, and that top line there, that's the rate of inflation, and the bottom line is the change in household income. And you guys can clearly see as this graph illustrates, that gap just continues to get bigger and bigger and bigger. And, unless we figure out a way to, start reversing that trend, that's why I said in the future, every year we're going to be financially worse, just holistically. Now, I'm not going to turn this into some like financial podcast. Are there things you can do as an individual to combat inflation? Absolutely. Absolutely, there are things you can do, but I'm not going to, like I said, I'm not going to turn this into a financial podcast and give financial advice. But I think it's just, something that we need to be aware that, not everybody, has the ability or the luxury, to set aside some of their paycheck, to invest to try to, beat inflation. And so that's why, just it is tougher for, the average American family now than it was. And like I said, it's going to continue to get tougher unless something is done about inflation. And got to take a stand against that and figure out a way to flatline it. But, anyways, I hope you enjoyed the video. If you disagree with my take, if you would have answered the question differently, I welcome you to leave a leave a comment below. But I'll try to be on here next week where I will answer the second question that was asked in the Biden versus Trump debate. So have a good one, everyone. Thanks.